straight in the eyes and said, "Well heeded is well heard."
Did you notice a reference to some wise lady who, if he ever gets to her, who do you think that is?
Beatrice.
Exactly.
Yet nonetheless I move on in debate with Sir Brunetto, asking him whose fame in all his band is widest and most great. Some, he replies, it will be well to name. The rest we must pass over for sheer dearth of time. 'Twould take too long to mention them. All these, in brief, were clerks and men of worth in letters and in scholarship, none more so, and all defiled by one same taint on earth.
Okay, you might want to just note that all the people that Virgil, that Brunetto Latini is with are all what they sometimes call men of letters. They are writers or scholars, people who have to do with books. And he mentions a couple of them here. And he alludes to the sin, all defiled by one same taint on earth. So he mentions the sin, and he will again in the next stanza.
In that sad throng goes Francis of Corso and Priscian. Could thy hunger have been sated by such scapula, thou mightest have seen also him whom the servant of servants once translated from Arno to Bacchalion, where he left the body he'd unstrung and enervated.
Okay, underline that. That's the only real reference again to the sin itself. The particular sin, unstrung, it undoes it and innervates. You remember what innervates on the quiz yesterday?
Oh, yeah, was
It's the opposite of that.
reduce energy.
Right. So that's what this particular sin can do to the human body, is innervate it. And then you can finish.
I would say more, but must not, for a drift of fresh dust rising from the sandy ground warns me to cease and make my going swift. Here come some folk with whom I mean to be found. Keep handing my thesaurus, where I yet live on, I ask no more. Then he turned round, and seemed like one of those who over the flat and open course of the fields beside Verona run for the green cloth, and he seemed at that, not like a loser, but the winning runner.
Notice how he finishes. Even at the end, when he sees them run off, he says they run off like they're runners in a race, but not as the loser, but like the winner of the race. Or like when, so he really is very complimentary of him. And notice a reference to his book. What book did he write? A thesaurus. You know what thesaurus is do?
Yeah, it's like a book of synonyms.
It's like, yeah, synonyms and names.
Sure. So that was, and notice what he wants. What does he want?
To be remembered.
Right, like we've seen on a number of occasions already. And there's a connection here with the lustful being blown, the lustful are being blown around by the wind. Remember that? Here they're running. So there's something about constant, fruitless movement that that doesn't accomplish anything. It's just sheer punishment.
Wait, so what was this crime again? Well, what is this?
There are two crimes. Two or three. Anyway, this the crime of sodomy or homosexuality.
So they were running?
Yeah, they're running and looking at that which they sinned against, which was the body. Like Capaneus looked directly to God, because blasphemy is a direct insult to God, right? Direct attack on God. This particular sin, any kind of sexual sin, frankly, is a is violence indirectly to God. It's taking what God made, the human body, and misusing it. And the next one, we won't read this one, is violence against money. That's the people that charge excessive interest, that are usurers. But in all three cases, they look at the thing which they sin against. In this case, he sinned against the body, so he looks at his body. This is not how the body was meant to be used, is the idea. All right, so I think there's plenty more we could read, but we usually stop there. If you are still in the mood, does it take that? We're going to go to the last canto, which is way back here at the end of the book, which makes sense, which is 30. You tell me, without looking at it, tell me what the number of the last
It's like
canto.
23rd, no.
You're right, it is 34, because remember all...
33 plus 1.
That's right. It has the introduction in it. So If you'll turn to 34, by the way, if you stop on page 264, here is the last circle of hell divided into 3 regions. And they have names: Cana. That sounds like somebody in the Bible we should know. And what was his sin?
Murdered his brother.
So this is the circle where people betray family members. And Antenora, I'm not sure what that is, but I'm pretty sure it's,
Traitors to their country.
yeah, and I don't know who he is.
What page is
This is on 264. Ptolemea,
Traitors to their guests.
yeah, and I don't know who he is either. But then finally Judeca,
Traitors to their lords.
Right. maybe so. I don't know why that would be guests, but.
So it's traitors.
Don't you think that's odd? If you know the Bible, it happens at least twice in the Bible where somebody like Lot was willing to give his daughters to the men of Sodom, as opposed to giving up the guests. So there was this. Guests were sacred, and I think the reason behind it is a story in mythology about Zeus and Apollo disguised as beggars and walking around a city, and nobody let them in except one old couple, and so they destroyed the whole city except for the couple. We know the Sodom and Gomorrah story, that these 2 men were angels. They didn't know it. In fact, it says, I think in Hebrews, that about the idea that some people entertained angels without knowing it. That's an interesting thought, isn't it? Because they were strangers. You didn't know that it was an angel. Anyway, that's this one reason behind maybe why the ancient world, really, and medieval world, protected guests. It was sacred, because now they were completely in your hands, and so you couldn't betray them. Anyway, here's the circle. It's the river Caucasus. So let's take a look at it. Turn to the last, which would be 34, and we don't have to read all this today, but we might. Who would like to be a part of this? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Why don't we start here, and you can read the story. We're back on 285, the very last canto. You'll have to read the others later on your own.
285.
285.
285. Yeah.
Yep. Do you have trouble with the size of this print?
Yeah.
I mean, look at me. I mean, I wear glasses, and I'm a little older than you, and I need a better. I can read it better without my glasses, but it gets smaller every year. I just feel like it's harder to see. Well, you were gonna start. You can just read the next 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you can read the whatever last part is. So we'll start here. She can read the text and the body there.
Okay. The story. After passing over the region of
Judeca, named after Judas.
Judeca, where the traitors to their lords are wholly immersed in the ice, the poets see Satan devouring the shades of Judas, Brutus, and Cassius. They clamber along his body until, passing through the center of the earth, they emerge into a rocky cavern. From here, they follow the stream of Lethe upwards until it brings them out on the island of Mount Purgatory in the Antipodes.
So, in other words, Antarctica, essentially in this scheme where the purgatory is. You can go ahead, and I'll translate it because it's what she's going to read in Latin. Maybe read it and see if anybody can translate it.
Vexilla regis produent inferni.
Something about king of fire.
Both are in the essentially are in the translation. Yeah. The banners of the king of hell go forth.
Encountering us, canst thou distinguish him? Look forward, said the master, as we journey. As when a thick mist breathes, or when the rim of night creeps up across our hemisphere. A turning windmill looms in the distance dim. I thought I saw a shadowy mass appear, then shrank behind my leader from the blast, because there is no other cabin here. I stood, with fear I write it, where at last the shades, quite covered by the frozen sheet, gleamed through the ice like straws in crystal glass.
And this is the frozen river of Caucasus. It's not hot, it's freezing cold.
Some lie at length and others stand in it, this one upon his head and that upright, another like a bow bent face to feet. And when we had come so far that it seemed right to my dear master he should let me see that creature fairest once of the sons of light.
Who do you think that is? The creature fairest once of the sons of light? Yes, he was one of the fairest creatures, maybe the fairest creation of God.
He moved him from before me and halted me, and said, Behold now this, behold the place where thou must steel thy soul with constancy. How could I grew, how faint with fearfulness? Ask me not, reader, I shall not waste breath telling what words are powerless to express. This was not life, and yet it was not death. If thou hast wit to think how I might fare, beareth of both, let fancy aid thy faith.
All right, and we'll just keep going. We'll go here, there, and then Taylor.
1 moment, sir. I said,
Where are you?
I'm on the next page.
286.
286.
I just skipped a whole page.
It happens. You're not the first person to do that.
The emperor, out of the sorrowful realm, was there. Out of the girding ice he stood breast high, and to his arm alone the giants were, less comparable than to a giant's eye. Judge then how huge the stature of the whole, but so huge of part fair symmetry.
So he's waist up is all they can see. From the waist down is under the eyes. You can see him from the waist up. Satan, that is.
If he was once as fair as now he's foul, and dared outface his mate in rebellion, well may he be the fount of all our dole, and marveled was, out marveling a million, when I beheld 3 faces in his head. The one in front was scarlet like vermilion, and 2 mid-centered on the shoulders made union with this, and each with either fellow knit at the crest in triune junction wed. The right was of a hue twixt white and yellow, the left was colored like the men who dwell where the Nile runs down from source to sandy shallow. From under each sprang 2 great wings that well befitted such a monstrous bird as that. I ne'er saw a ship with such a spread of sail. Plumeless and like the pinions of bat, their fashion was, and as they flapped and whipped, 3 winds went rushing over the icy flat, and froze up all Quintus, and he wept from his 6 eyes, and down his triple chin. Runnels of tears and bloody slaver dripped. Each mouth devoured a sinner clenched within, frayed by the fins like flax beneath the brake. 3 at a time he tortured them for sin, but all the bites the one in front might take were nothing to the claws that flayed his hide, and sometimes stripped his back to the last flake. That wretch up there whose keenest pangs divide is Judas called Iscariot, said my Lord. His head within, his jerking legs outside.
All right, so face of Satan has 3 faces, different colors, red, black, and yellow. Each represents the 3 sons of Noah, and I'll write this on the board later, but Japheth, Ham, and who's the other? Who's the 3rd son? Shem. Shem, Ham, and Japheth are the 3 sons. So each face represents those 3 sons, and think about it, those 3 sons repopulated the earth. So all the people of the earth are from those 3 men, and so each one of them represents a part of the world. And so each is also chewing up a sinner, and the first one we know is Judas, and we'll go to Catherine.
Okay.
Papa 287.
Okay. As for the pair whose heads hang hitherward from their black mouth, limbs of rudest sprawl, see how he
Rides.
and utters ever word. And strong food,
Cassius.
Cassius and his fellow throng will come, for night is rising on the world once more. We must depart. We have seen all.
Okay, we might want to underline that. He basically said, we've seen it all. We've seen all hell now. Now they got to get out. But he basically makes that as Virgil does. So the 3 sinners are, you know who they are?
Judas, Brutus, and Cassius.
Yes, each in a separate face, mouth of one of the of Satan, and
What did Cassius do?
What was the last
I always forget.
he was Brutus's conspirator, fellow conspirator to
What was
kill
the
him.
last one, Mr. Brown?
Cassius, Brutus and Cassius killed Julius Caesar. To a Roman poet or Italian poet, that would be the worst crime except for that of Jesus. That would be the worst crime ever committed. Be like John Wilkes Booth killing Abraham Lincoln for us. You may continue.
Then, as he bade about his neck, I curled my arms and clasped him, and he spied the time and place, and when the wings were wide unfurled. Set him upon the shaggy flints to climb, and thus from shag descend, down, twist matted hair, and crust up bosom rind. And when we had come to where the huge thigh bone rise in its socket at the haunches swell, my
Okay.
guide with labor and great exertion.
Okay, this is strange, but Satan is a satyr. It's sort of described as a satyr, which is half man, half goat. Notice all the different mixes you have
Wait, is
in
that where we get
hell.
is that where we get that? Because I've seen sometimes Satan depicted as half man, half goat.
And think about it, you have a lot of that representations in
Media.
witchcraft
Yeah,
and
and also like him being red.
so satyr or satyr, I don't know how you
Satyr.
satyr, half man, half goat. So he's there, and so this is what happens. And Virgil and Dante climb up on his shaggy hide. He's like a goat, so they climb up on him and start to climb down. They have to go. Remember, they got to go down through the center of the earth, and then up. Up the other side. So that's what they're doing. They're starting to climb down. By the way, I don't know how.
The center of the earth.
What?
So he's pretty much the center
He
of the
is,
earth.
yes, in this scheme of things. By the way, don't ask me how she figured this, but apparently scholars have thought about this for years. So she, meaning Dorothy Sayers, figures that Satan is about 1,000 or 1,500 feet tall. Isn't the new Trade Center building 1,776 feet tall from the bottom to the tip of the antenna, the one that replaced the Twin Tower? So that's how tall Satan is. Satan is the Empire State Building in their thinking.
That's crazy though.
Yes. All right, we'll keep reading, Catherine.
Okay. Wait, where was I again?
Turning head, 79.
Turned heads to where his feet had been, and fell to lifting himself up upon the hair, so that I thought us melt his exhale.
So they turn. And you climb down something, you climb down a ladder, right? You're top of the ladder and you go foot first down. But at some point, can you imagine doing this on a ladder? You turn so that you climb that way. Now, why do you think they're doing that?
Because gravity down and going back up, right?
As soon as they cross the center
The
of the
gravity's
earth,
other way.
they'll be moving up. So see how that works.
Hold fast to me, for by so steep a stair, my master said, panting like one forespent, needs must we quit this realm of all despair. At length, emerging through every rocky bend, he perched me sitting on the rim of the cup, and crawled out after. Heedful how he went. I raised my eyes thinking to see the top of his spur as I had left him last, but only saw his great legs sticking up.
So he looks up thinking, we were climbing down, so his head should be up there, but instead, he's looking up and he sees his feet. Because now they've crossed through.
And if I stood dumbfounded and aghast, let those thick-witted gentry judge and say, who do not see what point it was I passed. Up on thy legs, the master said, the way is long, the road rough, you'll defer the feet, and at mid-terrace already stands the day. The place we stood in was by no means fit for a king's palace, but a natural prison with a vile floor and very badly lit.
Could I read now?
You want to finish it?
One moment, sir, said I, when I had risen, before I plucked myself from the abyss, lighten my darkness with a word in season. Kindly explain what happened to the ice, what's turned him upside down, or in an hour thus whirled the sun from dusk to dawning skies. Though think, he said, thou standest as before yon side the center, when I grasp the hair of the ill-worn worm that pierces the world's core. So long as I descend
Antipodal.
antipodal to that which land roofs in, and under those
Meridian.
Meridian came to die. The man born sinless and who did not sin, thou hast thy feet upon a little sphere, of whose far side Judea formed the skin. When it is evening there, it is morning here, and he whose pelt or ladder was, stands still, fix it in the same place, self-same place, and does not stir. Beside the world, from out his high heaven he fell. The land which heretofore forth fled, back dismayed, flung the sea upon her like a veil, and sought our hemisphere with equal dread, be like the peak of earth, which still is found this side, rushed up, and so this void was made. There is a place low down there underground, as far from Beelzebub at his tombs deep, not known to sight, but only by the sound of a small stream which trickles down the steep.
Okay, circle that small stream. That's a reference to Lethe, the fifth river of hell, and the river they're following up to the surface again.
Down the steep, hollowing its channels, where the gentle fall in devious course its wandering waters creep. By the hidden way my guide, and I would fall back to the lit world from the darkening dens, toiled upward, caring for no rest at all. He first, I followed, till my straining sense glimpsed the bright burden of the heavenly cause through a round hole. By this we climbed, and thence came forth to look once upon the stars.
Circle that last word, and just since it's on my mind, I won't probably do it again. I want to read you the last sentence of Purgatory, which is where they are now. They're now at the mountain of Purgatory. This is the last sentence of Purgatory, the last tercet, the last stanza. From the most holy water I returned regenerate, in the manner of new trees that are renewed with a new foliage, pure and disposed to mount unto the stars. And then the end of the whole comedy, I'll read the last stanza. Here vigor failed the lofty fantasy, but now was turning my desire and will, even as a wheel that equally is moved, the love which moves the sun and the other stars. So it's just, congratulations. You have read, not all of it, but you've read to the end, and I'm proud of you.
And I haven't really fallen asleep in all of
Good.
This is the only book.
Good. Yeah, we're making progress.
I mean, I slept with this, but I'm tired.
We're-
But the
we
others
may-
were
we're
really
making-
good, and I was paying attention.
She said, I'm
Yes.
okay.
Now I'm completely confused, but
I'm sorry.
I
was-
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
You stay away.
I tried today, but I couldn't.
Just notice here, and I'll write this on the board after, we're gonna probably have a prayer here, but it is true, like, let's see, we're in Greensboro. If you went to the other side of the world from Greensboro, we usually go east to west, so what time, it's right now, it's 1:45. If you went, say, to China, I'm not sure China is the exact opposite of us.
I can tell you Japan.
Well, let's start with, what time would it be in Japan right now?
Wait, what's the time again?
It's 1:45. Don't forget, today is Friday.
Yeah.
1:46.
Nighttime.
1:46.
So it'd be 1:46 in the morning.
It would be exactly approximately 12 hours ahead. He just made mention of that. He said that where it's light here, it's dark there.
It's
When it's morning
2:46
here, it's
a.m.
night there. So at noon, it was midnight on the other side of the world. And of course, at midnight 12:01, it's tomorrow.
Isn't 12 tomorrow?
Well, noon is midnight, I don't know, is it
That's why
12:01?
That's why
Oh,
on
well,
New
there's
Year's,
12 a.m.
they're
and there's 12
celebrating
p.m.
Right, so at
early
noon,
than
AM is
us,
at night, and
because
then
for them it's
12:01.
already
Yeah.
New Year's.
12 p.m. it's noon, and then 12 midnight, it's another day. So
Yeah, I thought you said 12:11.
I did. I don't know why I said that. All right. So anyway, we are done. And we'll be a prayer in just a minute, but we can look at any of the questions at the end if you want to turn to those. We've answered the others, or we can, but just turn to the end.
I
But-
think we could. 294.
all right, we'll do that.
And from there, just
It's
What is
describes
it?
the final region of Circle 9.
Okay,
My question
next
is-
time you're at Barnes and Noble, I promise you can find a copy, it wouldn't necessarily look like this. This
It's
cost
very
me
pretty.
$8 about 10 years
Where?
ago.
Ten
Copy,
ye-
one of the
that's the
greatest
hardcover,
books
that's
ever
$8.
written for $8. You can find a similar edition if you, by the way, this was translated by, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, who was an American poet.
Longfellow, we did a poem by
Yeah,
him.
he's a
He's pretty
famous poet of his own right, yeah. All right, so let's look at question 94. We'll see these. Everybody got 94? Describe the final region, Judaica. What do you think this type of punishment? What did we say about it? What is the punishment in this section?
Death.
Wait, what question are we?
This is,
94.
yeah, 94. It's the frozen river. They're ensconced in one manner or
Like where
another.
Satan is?
What?
Didn't she say once that Satan was frozen?
Yes, yeah, this is the frozen river.
It's just frozen. Like,
Number 95, Dante is transformed throughout the journey, and his climactic moment seems to occur in lines 25 through 28. What has happened to Dante? Has his journey been successful? Great question. 28, let's see what he says here. What is it? 28. That's what he said, right? This was not life, and yet it was not, am I reading the right thing? On 25, 28. Yeah, this is not life, and yet it was not death. If thou hast wit to think how I might fare bereft of both, let fancy aid thy faith. I'm not sure how that answers the question. I'll have to think about it. What has happened to journey? I don't know I can prove it, but the thing that should have happened to him, which I know did, is he became aware of the need to repent. He became aware of the evil of sin and the yeah, it's the thing we have to deal with. We can't forgive ourselves. God can forgive us.
Good afternoon. Would you please pause for Friday afternoon prayer?
Can't say no.
This afternoon's devotion and prayer and scripture will be read by Macy Hubbard, 7th grade, Warren Pickard, 8th grade, and choir chaplain Caroline Kubert, 11th grade.
Isaiah 30:15. This is what the sovereign Lord, the Holy One of Israel, says. In repentance and rest is your salvation. In quietness and trust is your strength. In Genesis 2:2. By the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all his work.
As the year comes rushing to an end, we thought it was important to remind everyone that life is meant to be enjoyed. It is very true that we need to finish strong, but beware of detrimental things like burnout. We should do our best in order to honor God, but honoring God also involves taking time to rest, find peace, and enjoy life. You are not made to spend every waking moment stressing about the next quiz, next paper, next test, or exams. You are made to glorify God, and you cannot glorify God through stress and worry. When God created the universe, he rested. He didn't need to rest, but wanted to set the example that we need to rest. From the very beginning of the existence of everything, it was made clear that rest is important. While rest does mean sleep, it also means time away from stress. That time can mean peaceful moments like prayer time and devotions, but it can also mean enjoying yourself. God created us to enjoy life, so let's all honor him by doing so.
Would you all bow your heads? Dear God, we thank you. We thank you for all of it. For the rain, the sun, and the wind, and all of your wonderful creation.
I do understand we all need to like rest, but
Think of it this way.
You will
This
never
is
have
the
easy
last
prayer.
time you'll ever have an exam.
that's exactly. But I'm gonna ask him next year. I'm gonna be like, so you remember that prayer?
What did he say?
He said something about exams.
He said that we shouldn't be